They say memory is tied to scent. Some people remember their childhood by the smell of fresh-cut grass or their mum's perfume. Me, rubbing alcohol, sterile, sharp, everywhere. That's the scent I woke up to when I was 8, the day my world began to shrink. It started with loud knocks on my bedroom door and my Uncle Mark's pale face. "Ethan, pack a bag." "Your mum's in the hospital," he said, barely breathing. I didn't ask questions. I was too young to know what premature meant. But when my brother Tyler was born 2 months early, the whole house turned into something else. Not a home, a fortress, one where I didn't matter anymore. Suddenly, everything became about him. There were air purifiers in every room. Hand sanitizer bottles replaced picture frames. My mum stopped hugging me, said I might make Tyler sick. From then on, I became the family ghost. Whenever Tyler coughed, even slightly, I was sent away to Grandpa George's. At first, I thought it was a reward. Grandpa was different, quiet, patient. He let me sit with him in his dusty little office, handling boxes full of old, rusted watches. "This one," he said once, pointing to a battered timepiece with faded Roman numerals, "is worth more than your dad's car." I didn't believe him until he showed me how to pop open the back and read the engravings. And just like that, the pieces clicked. While my parents forgot me, I was learning about value, real value. Back at home, it was like I was an allergy, a risk to be avoided. I brought home straight A's. No one looked up. I won the school science fair. Dad told me to leave the project board in the garage. Tyler might be allergic to dust. The night of my big piano recital, I sat alone on stage. Mom had stayed home. Tyler had a 99-degree fever. 2 weeks later, Tyler tapped a triangle in his school band, and the entire extended family showed up like it was Carnegie Hall. That was the first time I said it out loud in my head, I don't matter to them. I never did. But I wasn't going to beg for space anymore. If they didn't see me, I'd build something so massive they'd trip over it. And they did. Oh, they absolutely did. By the time I turned 16, I had 2 lives. One was visible, the quiet, polite son who never made trouble, who washed dishes without being asked and stayed out of Tyler's way. The other, underground, hidden, the version of me that was building something, quietly, ruthlessly, alone. I buried myself in books, not because anyone expected me to succeed, but because I needed a way out. If I wanted air, I had to claw my way out of the hole they'd put me in. Every report card was flawless. No one clapped. When I got a perfect 1600 on the SAT, my mother didn't even glance up from Tyler's math homework. "That's nice," she said, like I'd told her we were out of milk. Tyler grinned like he'd won something. "Wow, Ethan. Think you're special now?" I didn't reply. I just walked back upstairs. That was the moment I stopped trying to impress any of them. While Tyler begged for homework extensions and skipped class because of migraines, I was working weekends at a local repair shop downtown. Not glamorous, but the guy who owned it had boxes of old pocket watches and broken timepieces that no one else could fix. That was my zone. I'd stay late, learning how to open watchbacks, replace crystals, adjust balance wheels. I could tell a fake Rolex from 5 feet away. And when Grandpa George gifted me his handwritten notebook on vintage Swiss movements, it felt like a map to treasure. He was the only one who ever looked at me like I might become something more than a placeholder in Tyler's shadow. College? I didn't wait for help. I filled out every scholarship app myself, nailed every interview, and walked out of high school with a full ride to the University of Michigan. Mum's reaction? Michigan? That's far. Tyler will miss you. Tyler! He lit up. Cool. I'm taking your room. On move-in day, no one came, no teary goodbyes, no hugs. Only Uncle Mark, silent as always, drove me, handed me an envelope, and said, "From your grandpa." He made me promise. Inside was $300 in cash, and a note, "Never settle for being ignored. Love, G." That was the last day I ever let anyone make me feel small. I walked into college with nothing but a duffel bag, a laptop, and a chip on my shoulder. And 4 years later, I walked out with a degree, a network, and a quiet empire just beginning to grow. The job offer came 3 weeks after graduation, junior appraiser at a mid-tier auction house in Chicago, specializing in vintage timepieces and estate jewelry. Not glamorous, definitely not lucrative, but it was a foot in the door. I took it without hesitation. The first 6 months were a grind. My office, if you could call it that, was a cubicle sandwiched between the shipping room and the employee fridge. I catalogued everything from scratched-up brooches to watches with missing movements and mismatched hands. Most of it was junk, until it wasn't. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. I was assigned a box of unremarkable estate donations. One of them was a battered watch labelled as a replica Omega. Something felt off the second I held it. Too heavy, too intricate. The patina was too authentic to be a knockoff. I cracked it open. The serial number wasn't just correct, it matched a rare batch from the 1940s, a wartime production run known for its complications and craftsmanship. I cross-referenced the engravings with vintage catalogues and confirmed the movement number in an old Swiss registry. I stayed in the office until midnight, verifying every detail. The next day, I dropped the watch, along with a report I wrote by hand, on my supervisor's desk. He didn't even look up. "Just another fake." "Not even close," I said. "This piece could go for 50 grand. That made him pause. They ran my appraisal, confirmed everything. The watch sold at auction for $63,000. No one had ever looked at me the same way after that. I started getting better assignments, rare pieces, high-profile clients, rich people who wore Patek Philippe like gym shoes and inherited Cartier from grandmothers they couldn't name. Still, there was a ceiling. No matter how many 6-figure watches I authenticated, my commission was always a sliver. The house got rich. I stayed salaried. I wanted more. So I took a risk most people would call stupid. I quit. I drained my savings, took out a small personal loan, and rented a greasy storage room above an old pizza shop on the west side of Chicago. The stairs creaked, the walls reeked of oregano and burnt cheese, and the Wi-Fi dropped every time the delivery guy opened the freezer door. But it was mine. I furnished it with a folding table from a garage sale, a metal chair I scrubbed clean with alcohol wipes, and a lamp that flickered if I breathed too hard. No windows, no insulation. But I brought my tools, my loop, and Grandpa George's notebook. That's all I needed. I started small, taking freelance contracts from antique dealers and pawn shops who couldn't afford the big firms. I charged a fraction of what the auction houses did, but I made damn sure I was the best. It didn't take long. One of my first clients brought in a costume watch from her late uncle's box. Brass, no markings on the case. Looked like junk until I opened the back and found a rare Minerva movement. Serial number intact, handmade in 1935. The piece sold for $19,000. Word spread. 6 months in, a private collector showed up with a briefcase full of family heirlooms she'd inherited but never trusted. Most were what she thought, mid-century watches with more sentimental value than actual worth. But 2 pieces caught my eye. One was a 1928 Vacheron with factory error engravings. The other a World War II Luftwaffe-issued chronograph, serial matched, with original strap and crown. Both had been dismissed as fakes for years. I documented everything, spent 2 weeks digging through military registries, old manufacturing archives, and collectors' logs. Wrote up a 60-page report with images and side-by-side analysis. The collection sold at auction for $910,000. My cut, 10%, 90 grand. I sat there in that oven-hot office, surrounded by the smell of mozzarella and garlic knots, holding my check like it was radioactive. That night, I went home and cried. Not because I was overwhelmed, because I was right. They were wrong. I used that money to move into a real office, still modest, but mine. It had functioning air conditioning, clean walls, and a little glass showroom with black velvet trays and fingerprint-free display cases. I hired my first employee, Lucas, fresh out of trade school, quiet, sharp-eyed, and obsessed with vintage Seikos. He reminded me of myself. We worked late, ate takeout on the floor. I taught him everything Grandpa George taught me: how to spot machine polishing under a loupe, how to tell if a movement had been recased, how fakes always tried to mimic soul, but never could. Within 2 years, we weren't a side hustle anymore. We were a name. Clients came from out of state. I authenticated for hedge fund collectors, celebrities who didn't want to be embarrassed wearing a fake, and old money families needing to divide inheritance pieces. We opened a branch in New York, then Miami. I wore suits that fit. I drank espresso from cups that didn't come with paper sleeves. I was in rooms that once ignored me. And my family? They had no clue. At every holiday dinner, I played dumb. Mum asked if I was still working at that little shop. I said yes. Tyler rolled his eyes and told me to get a real job while showing off his latest job title, Associate Brand Engagement Coordinator, whatever that means. That morning, I had closed a deal on a private appraisal for a Saudi billionaire. $500,000, done before lunch. But to them, I was still Ethan, the forgettable one. Background noise to Tyler's latest C+ marketing campaign. So I kept it that way until Thanksgiving. That's when it all blew up, and I let it. I should have known Thanksgiving was a trap. 2 weeks before the holiday, my mum called, her voice soft, almost pitiful. Ethan, I don't think I can cook this year. My back's been acting up again. Too much for me. I glanced at my calendar. I had a major appraisal going live the day after, a historic Omega set linked to the JFK estate. But I knew if I said no, I'd be labelled the cold, ungrateful son. So I said yes. But I didn't cook. I catered from the same 5-star service I use for corporate galas. Truffle stuffed turkey, saffron glazed vegetables, homemade cranberry chutney that probably cost more per spoonful than Tyler's monthly rent. Of course, none of it was good enough. This is takeout, Tyler said, sneering like he'd been personally insulted. You couldn't even make real stuffing. This from a man who once burned Pop-Tarts. One said nothing. Not worth it. I just drank my wine and smiled. After all, that morning, I'd finalised a $490,000 deal with a private collector in Singapore. Tyler had just posted a LinkedIn rant about toxic work culture. Perspective. The dinner dragged. Tyler monologuing about how brutal it was managing interns. My mum nodded, hanging on to every word like he was reciting gospel. My dad barely looked at me. No one asked about my life, my business, my successes. They never did. Later that night, I slipped upstairs to my old room, now a dusty storage space, to check on a live auction in Hong Kong. One of my VIP clients needed authentication on a rare Jaeger-LeCoultre piece before bidding. I opened my laptop and started reviewing files. That's when it happened. No knock, no warning. Tyler just burst in. Hey, you got a charger in here. Before I could even answer, he spotted the screen. My banking dashboard was open. I'd been moving funds earlier for tax purposes. The number sat at the top, bold and undeniable. 183, $504.37. He froze. His jaw actually dropped. What the hell is this? He asked, voice cracking. Is this real? I didn't say anything. That was my mistake. He lunged forward, grabbed the laptop, and sprinted downstairs like a kid who just found Santa's workshop. Everyone come look. Ethan's a freaking millionaire. The room went dead silent. My mother dropped her fork. My dad looked like someone had hit him with a baseball bat. Then came the wave. Not of pride or curiosity, but accusation. You had that kind of money while we were struggling, my mum said, voice shaking. While your father and I were trying to save the house, my dad added, now standing. Tyler's voice chimed in, falsely sweet. I just need $2 million, that's all. Just a little help getting started. Mum followed up like they'd rehearsed it. And your father and I have been dreaming of a place in Florida. Nothing extravagant, just maybe $3 million, somewhere warm. I laughed. Loud, bitter. So that's what I was now, an ATM. I've been sending $7,000 a month into your account for the past 2 years, I said coldly. Guess who took the credit? They blinked. Tyler's face drained. My mother's mouth parted, stunned. I paid off the house debt, quietly, without asking for thanks, and somehow Tyler still got the glory. You didn't tell us, my father said, defensive now. You never asked, I shot back. I set my wine glass down, grabbed my laptop from the table, and stood. I'm done, I said, voice like steel. No more payments. No more support. This family is not my responsibility. You owe us, my mum said, voice trembling. We raised you. I turned at the door, looking them in the eye. No, you raised Tyler. I just happened to live in the same house. I walked out. That night, I blocked their numbers. But they weren't done. The messages started within the hour. First, Mom, 7:42 p.m. How could you do this to your family? 8:15 p.m. Let's talk like adults. Family is family, 9:30 p.m. Tyler needs help. You're being selfish. By 11:00, she'd sent a real estate listing, beautiful 3-bedroom in Tampa. Only $3.1 M. We could really use this. I didn't reply. But the final blow came from Tyler, or rather, his ego, when he posted a Facebook status worthy of a reality TV meltdown. My millionaire brother hid his wealth while we struggled. Unbelievable betrayal. We always supported him. And this is how he repays us. Hundreds of comments. Distant cousins, who never sent me so much as a birthday card, suddenly had opinions. If I had that money, I'd help my family. Ethan was always a little strange, not surprised. I read it all, sipping bourbon from my high-rise balcony, the skyline glittering like silent applause. They thought they'd shame me into giving in. They forgot who I'd become. By Monday morning, they were at my office. Not an email, not a call, no appointment. They just showed up, my parents and Tyler, like an unwanted reunion tour. Lucas buzzed into my intercom. Ethan? Your family's downstairs. They're arguing with the front desk. I didn't flinch. I'd been expecting this. Anticipated it, even. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and walked to the lobby. There they were, my father in a blazer he hadn't fit in since I was 12. Mum with puffy eyes that somehow managed to look rehearsed. And Tyler, arms crossed, designer sunglasses perched on his head indoors, like he was shielding himself from the consequences of his own mediocrity. Ethan, my dad started, voice low and performative. We need to talk. There's nothing left to talk about, I said flatly. Tyler stepped in. You can't seriously just cut us off. You're living in luxury while we're struggling. I looked him over. Gucci sneakers, new watch, probably fake. Again, you're struggling? That bag you're carrying costs more than what I made my first year in business, my mother sniffled. Sweetheart, we're family. We sacrificed so much to raise you. I almost laughed. Sacrificed? I said. You exiled me every time Tyler sneezed. You never came to my concerts, my debates, my award nights. I did everything on my own. You didn't raise me. You survived around me. She gasped like I'd slapped her. I took out my phone. Watch closely, I said, and opened my banking app. In 2 taps, I pulled up the recurring payment dashboard and cancelled every transfer I had quietly sent to their account for the last 2 years. Right in front of them, my mum's phone dinged immediately. The notification glowed on her lock screen like a funeral bell. AC transfer cancelled. $7,000 monthly stipend terminated. Her hands trembled. My dad's jaw clenched. Tyler looked stunned, not because I'd done it, but because I wasn't bluffing. You can't do this, my father growled. I just did, I replied. Ungrateful, my mother hissed, her voice cracking. No, I corrected, stepping back. I'm finally done being useful. Security escorted them out. I didn't look back. My staff saw everything. They didn't say a word. Lucas brought me coffee afterward, placed it on my desk, and just nodded. Respect, unspoken and clean. That night, my phone lit up with a call I did answer. About time, Grandpa George's voice crackled over the line. I heard you kicked them out. News travels fast, I said, smiling. I'm proud of you, he said. Took guts. You're the only one in this family who didn't fold. You're not mad, he chuckled. Mad. I've been waiting for that moment since the day they left you off Tyler's birthday invitation and made you sit in the garage with the dog. I laughed for the first time in days, the real kind, the full body kind. But the story wasn't done. A few weeks later, Lucas came rushing into my office, holding his tablet like it was radioactive. Ethan, you've got to see this. On the screen was a brand new website, cheap, sloppy, glitchy. Tyler's Timepiece Vault, luxury watch authentication services. My mouth dropped open, then curved into the slowest, coldest grin I've ever managed. He tried to copy my business. The man who once asked me what a movement was in a watch had started his own authentication service, likely to ride the wave of attention from the Thanksgiving meltdown. I clicked through the site. Misspelled Rolex. Wrong photos. A fake customer review that included the line, "My Submariner is now shinier than ever." Not a thing. We don't polish vintage pieces, Tyler. 3 months later, the Yelp reviews started piling in. They labelled my Patek as fake. Turns out it's worth $180,000. Run. Staff couldn't tell quartz from automatic. Scam. This company is a joke. He tried to ride my name. But in my world, knowledge isn't optional. It's survival. The industry laughed him out of the room. Clients who'd worked with me even started warning others. Don't trust the knockoff brand run by the guy with Ethan's last name. He shut it down 6 months later. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just silence, the same kind I used to drown in as a kid. I moved again. High-rise, 24/7 security, gated floors. No visitor access without written clearance. I changed my number. Removed every tag connecting me to my family online. I wasn't hiding. I was choosing silence, this time on my own terms. They still try. Emails from throwaway accounts. Messages with subject lines like, "Mum is sick. Are you really going to let your family fall apart?" Tyler is depressed. We're worried. I don't open them. Instead, I stand on my balcony, wine glass in hand, looking over a city I now own a corner of. Not with power, not with noise, but with expertise, with silence, with legacy. They used to see me as invisible. Now, they can't stop looking, but they'll never touch me again. And for the first time in my life, that feels like peace. Story 2. I never imagined that a baby shower one I spent weeks planning would unravel the most painful betrayal of my life. I'm Emily, 30, and I've been married to Liam, 32, for 5 years. We've been through a lot together, especially on the fertility front. After multiple rounds of tests and dashed hopes, we've come to terms with the possibility that kids just aren't in our cards. It's a wound we've kept private, shared only with a few trusted people. One of them was my best friend, Talia. Talia and I met freshman year of college and immediately clicked. Same music taste, same sense of humour, same everything. By sophomore year, we were living together, doing late-night concert runs and eating ramen at 2 a.m. She was more than a best friend, she was family. Post-college, our paths split a bit. I joined a corporate law firm, while Talia built her presence as a full-time content creator. Still, no matter how busy life got, weekends were sacred. Whether it was hiking, binging reality shows, or just venting over takeout, we made time. Ironically, I met Liam during one of our girls' nights. He was at a low-key pub for a friend's bachelor party, and the chemistry was instant. I still tease him about who fell first, but truthfully, we both knew by the end of that night. We married 2 years later, and every now and then I tell Talia, if it weren't for you dragging me out that night, I'd still be single. Talia eventually met her husband, Ethan. They seemed like a good match. He was steady, grounded, and clearly adored her. They'd been married for 2 years when she called me one afternoon with the news she was pregnant. I was overjoyed for her. After everything we'd shared, it felt like we were stepping into a new era together. So when she asked me to plan the baby shower and be the godmother, I said yes without hesitation. We picked yellow as the theme, Talia's favourite colour. I booked the same caterer I used for my brother's wedding and coordinated every detail, favours, flower arrangements, the cake. I wanted everything to be perfect. On the day of the shower, Liam and I arrived early to help set up. Ethan greeted us and said Talia was still getting dressed. I noticed the cake wasn't centered on the table. She had very specific ideas, so I adjusted it. Guests trickled in, mostly old college friends we hadn't seen in years. It felt like a mini reunion. Talia came out in a flowing yellow maxi dress, glowing and giddy. She mingled effortlessly, snapping selfies, chatting with everyone. I was genuinely happy to see her so radiant. Then everything changed. Midway through the party, Talia stood up and clinked her glass for attention. I assumed it was the usual thank you speech. Instead, she smiled and said, "First, thank you all for coming. Ethan and I are so excited for this baby. But there's someone really special I want to thank for making this possible." She turned, looked directly at my husband and said, "Everyone, meet the father of my child." You could have heard a pin drop. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. The room was dead silent, just eyes bouncing between Liam and me. Liam's hand gripped mine under the table. I looked at him, and he looked just as blindsided as I was. His face was pale, eyebrows furrowed in confusion. My heart was hammering. I kept staring at Talia, trying to find a punchline. Then she laughed. "I'm kidding! It's a prank for Instagram. I wanted to see your faces." Cue awkward chuckles. A few people managed polite laughs, but most just looked uncomfortable. Liam squeezed my hand and whispered, "Can we go?" I shook my head. "Not yet. We'll leave quietly." Talia, meanwhile, acted like nothing happened. She bounced around the room, taking selfies and filming reactions. I felt sick. She knew we'd been struggling to conceive. And she still thought it was funny to use Liam as the punchline. Even Ethan wasn't laughing. He kept his distance and looked furious. A few minutes later, he asked Talia to step outside. We could still hear them, Ethan's voice rising, as he called her out for humiliating him and turning their shower into a circus. Then came the breaking point. I'm done with this. I'll love this baby, but I can't keep doing this with you, Ethan said loud enough for everyone to hear. Talia burst into tears. Ethan left. Liam got up too. I'll wait in the car, he said, jaw clenched. I wanted to cry, but I held it in. I left a few minutes later without saying goodbye. That night, Talia texted me. She said she was stressed and just trying to create a viral moment. She asked why I left without saying goodbye and if I could give her a ride to her OB appointment the next day. I stared at the screen, stunned. I replied, telling her the prank wasn't funny. It was disrespectful, it humiliated my husband, and I needed some space. She called me a terrible friend for abandoning her during a vulnerable time. When I showed Liam the messages, he was furious. He said we should cut contact, at least for now, I agreed. I sent Talia one last message. If she dared upload that video, I'd take legal action. She responded by saying I was jealous because she was pregnant, and I wasn't. I blocked her. It's been a week since that disaster of a baby shower, and honestly, it still doesn't feel real. You know how you replay a moment over and over in your head thinking, did I miss something? Was there a warning sign? That's what I've been doing. But the more I think about it, the more I realize there were no hints. Talia had never pulled something like that before. She wasn't a prankster, and this wasn't some harmless joke. It was a full-blown betrayal wrapped in fake laughter and social media clout. After I blocked her, I figured that was it. Space, silence, a reset. Instead, she started texting Liam, and the messages weren't just petty, they were cruel. One of them said, "You're not even a real man if you can't get your wife pregnant." When Liam showed me, my chest tightened. I don't cry often, but that one cut deep. It was like she'd taken our most private pain and decided to stab us with it, just for the sake of having the last word. I'd been giving her the benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe it was hormones or stress. But that message, that was pure malice. So yeah, I snapped. I was still listed as the admin on her baby registry. We'd spent hours together curating that list. She'd insisted on adding over-the-top items, like a $700 stroller and a designer diaper bag. At the time, I thought it was a bit much, but she said, "I don't expect everyone to buy the expensive stuff. You and I can cover what's left after the shower." I'd already ordered 2 of those expensive gifts, planning to surprise her. But the moment she insulted Liam, I cancelled the order, deleted the registry, and logged out. She could start from scratch. Next was the catering. I had paid half the deposit up front for her baby shower, expecting to pay the rest after the event. But with everything that happened, I just forgot. A few days later, the caterer emailed me with the remaining invoice. I explained what went down and asked if the remaining bill could be sent to Talia instead, since she'd booked the service under her name. The caterer was understanding and even apologized for the awkward situation. She agreed to redirect the invoice to Talia. I felt a weird sense of relief. Like finally, I was done spending money on someone who treated us like a punchline in her content creation circus. Liam, for what it's worth, found the whole thing a little amusing. She wanted content? Well, she's got real-life drama now, he joked, trying to lighten the mood. But I could still see the tension in his jaw whenever her name came up. As for Ethan, he meant what he said at the shower. He packed a bag and moved out. A few days later, he and Liam met up for drinks, and Ethan confirmed he was already talking to a divorce lawyer. "She's not the person I married," he told Liam. "I don't even recognize her anymore." Talia, in true influencer fashion, didn't let that slow her down. She kept blowing up Liam's phone with texts. Some begging, some raging. One day it was you ruined our friendship. The next it was tell your wife to grow up and stop playing the victim. Then came the final straw. She accused Ethan of cheating with me. I know. Out of nowhere, she sent Liam a message saying, "Your wife's probably been sleeping with my husband behind our backs this whole time." It explains everything. Liam was speechless. He read the message, put his phone down, and just stared at the wall for a while. "I think she's unraveling," he finally said. "This isn't normal." I agreed. Whatever was going on with her, it wasn't just stress or hormones. It was something darker: resentment, jealousy, maybe even delusion. So I decided it was time to stop playing defense. If she wanted to burn bridges, fine, but she wasn't going to light them on my front lawn. I started gathering everything: screenshots of her texts, the prank video clips she'd posted. Yes, she uploaded parts of it before I blocked her, and the nasty messages she sent Liam. I wasn't planning to go nuclear, but I wanted to be ready in case she did. Then an email showed up in my inbox. It was from her. She used an old email I'd forgotten I even had connected to my baby shower planning account. And it was unhinged. She called me selfish, said I was too stuck up to understand humour, said I was lucky I couldn't get pregnant because, and I quote, "No child deserves a mother like you." She went on to say she only ever stayed close to me because my life made hers easier. My money, my planning skills, my connections. She called me ugly. Said Liam married me because I was a safe, boring choice. Then she signed off with, "Don't worry, I won't need your help anymore. You've done enough damage." I showed it to Liam. He read the whole thing quietly, then said, "We're done." He was right. No more wondering if she'd apologise, no more hoping she'd come to her senses. I'd bent over backwards to give her grace. I threw her a beautiful baby shower, stood by her side through every phase of her life, and in return, she humiliated us publicly and then blamed us for her world falling apart. Ethan came over for dinner that weekend. He brought his laptop and showed us texts she'd sent him too, calling him a failure, a coward, accusing him of betrayal, then flipping to "Please come back. I need you." It was like watching someone fall apart in slow motion. Ethan's lawyer advised him not to respond to any of her texts. Just collect the messages and keep records. So that's what he was doing, keeping screenshots, saving voicemails, staying calm. He told us he planned to file the divorce papers next week. We asked him how he was doing, really. "Tired," he said, "but free. For the first time in a long time, I feel free." We talked late into the night, shared stories, and quietly laughed at the absurdity of it all. We'd all been dragged through the emotional mud, but at least we weren't alone in it. Later that night, Liam said something I haven't been able to stop thinking about. "You know what's wild? If she'd just said sorry, like really apologised, things could have been different." Yeah, they really could have. But she didn't. And that's on her. 2 months. That's how long it's been since the baby shower, since the messages, since I blocked Talia and walked away from over a decade of friendship. I wish I could say it all just faded into the background, that life picked up right where it left off. But healing doesn't work like that. It's quiet, slow. It sneaks up on you in little moments, like when you realise your shoulders aren't always tense, or when your laughter sounds real again. Liam and I took a break from everything: work, social obligations, even social media. We flew out to the Maldives, booked a small villa by the water, and just breathed. No texts, no drama, no fake friends, just us. We'd wake up to the sound of waves, drink coffee on the balcony, talk about anything but what happened. And for the first time in a long time, I felt light again. But of course, real life doesn't stay paused forever. When we got home, there were a few updates waiting for us. First, Ethan officially filed for divorce. No bluffing, no delays. His lawyer submitted the paperwork, and the court scheduled the first hearing. Talia tried to contest it, said she wasn't given enough notice even though she was, then claimed emotional distress. Didn't matter. Ethan had receipts, texts, voicemails, even a printed copy of the email she sent me. The judge didn't look amused. They moved forward. Turns out their prenup held up. She tried to claim she deserved more due to her online influence, but the court saw right through it. The agreement was clear, and she walked away with barely anything beyond basic support for the baby. Ethan, to his credit, still showed up for the birth. She'd gone back to live with her parents by then, couldn't support herself, and wasn't getting brand deals like before. Apparently, some of her followers turned on her after the prank video. Even though she deleted it, people remembered. He stayed in the hospital that night, held his daughter. Didn't speak much to Talia, but he was there for the baby. That says a lot. Since then, he's been actively co-parenting. He sees his daughter every weekend, covers all her medical bills, and has even started setting up a college fund. He's not doing it for Talia, he's doing it because it's the right thing to do, and I respect him for that. As for me, I haven't heard a word from Talia, not directly anyway. But she did try reaching out again, this time through her mum. One afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognise. I let it go to voicemail. When I checked it later, I heard a soft voice. "Hi, Emily. This is Janet, Talia's mum. I know things have gotten messy, but she's not doing well. I was wondering if you'd be open to talking." I didn't respond. Not because I hate her, not because I'm still angry, but because I've moved on, and I don't trust her anymore. I showed the voicemail to Liam. He asked if I was okay, and I nodded. I think I just finally see her clearly. There's this thing that happens when you love someone for so long, you fill in the cracks for them. You cover their flaws, explain away the red flags, convince yourself that their bad days don't define them. I did that with Talia for years. Looking back, there were moments. Subtle jabs she'd make about my job, or how Liam was too serious for me. Times she'd make herself the centre of everything, even when someone else was struggling. I ignored it. But now, I don't have to anymore. We've set boundaries and stuck to them. Liam and I are stronger than ever. We've gotten back into our old routines, Sunday brunches, lazy movie nights, planning weekend getaways. We even adopted a second dog, a tiny rescue mutt with big eyes and a bigger personality. He's brought so much joy into our home. And you know what? I don't feel that ache anymore when I see a baby in a stroller or a toddler laughing in a park. We've made peace with our journey. Maybe one day we'll adopt. Maybe we won't. But for now, we're just grateful for each other, and that feels complete. A few weeks ago, Ethan invited us over for dinner. He cooked. We brought dessert. After the meal, we sat outside, watching his daughter sleep in the baby monitor. "She's got her mum's nose," he said, then added, "but none of her chaos, thank God." We laughed. There was no bitterness in his voice, just calm, acceptance, the kind that only comes after you've walked through fire and made it out whole. Toward the end of the evening, he said something that stuck with me. People think rock bottom is a place. It's not. It's a choice. You either keep digging or you get up. I nodded. We got up. So yeah, this story didn't have a perfect ending. There were no grand reconciliations, no tearful apologies, no sudden miracles. But there was clarity, growth, healing. And that's more than enough. To anyone going through something similar, being hurt by someone you trusted, feeling like the ground just gave out from under you, just know this. You're not weak for walking away. You're not heartless for protecting your peace. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is close a door and never open it Again. We did, and we're finally free. Story 3. Let me take you back a few years. I work in corporate project management. Think fluorescent lights, stale coffee, endless spreadsheets, and managers who preach collaboration but panic at the first sign of real feedback. It's a jungle, but I've been here long enough to know the trails. Enter Ryan. Ryan showed up straight out of business school, maybe 24 or 25, sporting a watch he couldn't possibly afford on his starting salary, and a grin like he was about to revolutionize the Fortune 500. The guy walked like he was being filmed in slow motion, like some LinkedIn motivational video. From the second I met him, I knew he'd be a problem. The department head, Lisa, gathered us for his intro. She did the usual corporate cheerleading about growth opportunities and team synergy. Ryan? He interrupts and says, I'm more of a visionary leader than a worker bee. I blinked. So did everyone else. Lisa awkwardly smiled. Well, leadership is built on collaboration. You'll be working closely with Maya to get up to speed. That's me, Maya. And let me tell you, I already felt a migraine incoming. Later that same morning, I'm back at my desk sipping burnt coffee when an email pops up. Subject line: Task reallocation for efficiency. It's a spreadsheet of all his responsibilities with my name listed next to every single one. No joke. I walk over to his desk, trying not to laugh. He's twirling a stress ball like he's analysing the S&P 500. Hey Ryan, I say, holding up my phone. What's this email about? He barely glances up. Delegation. That's how leadership works. I stared at him. You're a junior project coordinator. You're supposed to support me. He rolls his eyes and smirks. You're just intimidated by my natural authority. I had to take a beat to let that sink in. Natural authority? My guy, you don't even know where the printer is. I said calmly. You don't have any authority. We'll see, he said, still smirking. The next day, I find out Ryan scheduled a meeting with my team. Not his team, mine. The same one I was supposed to lead. I walk into the conference room and there he is, planted at the head of the table like he's running a board meeting. Laptop open, already talking. Let's clarify my role, he begins. I'll be focusing on strategy while Maya executes our shared vision. People looked around like, is this a joke? A couple glanced at me in disbelief. I sat down, mostly just curious how far he was going to take this. Ryan, I interrupted, you're not here to delegate. You're here to deliver. We're partners, he says, all smiles. Titles aren't important. I agree, I said, looking at Lisa at the end of the table. Lisa, any thoughts? She leaned back, clearly fed up already. Ryan, you understand you were brought on to assist Maya, yes? He nodded enthusiastically. Of course. But effective leaders empower their teams. She nodded back, stone-faced. Great. The Sandon proposal is due tomorrow. Show us what you've got. Ryan's grin faltered. I thought that was a joint effort, he stammered. Nope, Lisa said. You wanted responsibility. Now you've got it. The next morning, Ryan comes in right before the 9 a.m. deadline, looking like he lost a fight with a coffee machine. He hands Lisa a printed proposal with shaking hands. She reads the first page, then the second, then sighs. This is just corporate buzzwords, she says flatly. Ryan blinks. I took a visionary approach. Lisa cuts him off. Did you even read the client brief? Because you copied and pasted from some random MBA deck. Also, you CC'd the client. They've already seen this disaster. You could hear a pin drop. Then she adds, we'll talk in my office. Ryan shoots me a desperate glance. I just smiled. The next morning, the entire department is called into a meeting. Ryan walks in last, visibly sweating. On the conference table, a termination letter. Lisa doesn't waste time. You were given an opportunity. You blew it. You wasted resources, jeopardized a client relationship, and disrespected your co-workers. You're being terminated effective immediately. Ryan sputtered. You can't fire me. I was going to. Security will escort you out. And that should have been the end. Spoiler, it wasn't. That afternoon, we did what any group of overworked professionals would do, made memes. My favourite? A photo of Ryan photoshopped onto a burning dumpster with the caption "Visionary Leadership." But around 1 p.m, things took a weird turn. An email popped up in my inbox. Subject: urgent misunderstanding. Legal action pending. Body: to whom it may concern. My termination was based on a fundamental misinterpretation of my leadership strategy, which was sabotaged by a toxic work environment. He went on to threaten legal action for wrongful termination, psychological distress, and workplace discrimination. I laughed, like full volume laugh. Lisa happened to walk by my desk. "What's funny?" she asked. I turned the monitor so she could see. She groaned. "HR's meeting with him tomorrow." I made sure to accidentally be in the break room during the meeting. The walls were glass, so we could all see him gesturing like a maniac, while HR stared back with expressions of pure, unbothered boredom. At one point, he slapped the table. Not a great strategy. When he stormed out, red-faced, you'd think he'd be done. But no, Ryan didn't go quietly. He escalated. Because when a man with natural authority gets rejected by reality, he doesn't adapt. He doubles down. And that's when things got scary. You'd think after being fired in front of the entire department, Ryan would crawl back into obscurity where fragile egos go to die. Nope. The next morning, I walked into the office, coffee in hand, mentally preparing for a quiet day, when someone in marketing leaned over and said, "Hey, did you see the guy outside?" "What guy?" "The weird one. Just standing across the street, in a suit." I turned toward the window, and there he was, Ryan, just standing on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, watching the building like he was casing a bank. At first, I thought maybe he was waiting for a rideshare or a friend or, hell, divine guidance. But no, he was just there, 4 hours. Then it happened again, and again. At lunch, he was there. When I left for the day, still there. I don't know what he thought he was doing, but people started to notice. Amy from accounting whispered, "Is that Ryan? Seriously?" "Yeah," I said without breaking eye contact. "He's lurking." "He's what?" "Lurking. Verb. To lurk." What he's doing right now. At first it was funny in a dark office satire kind of way. Like, yeah, sure, the dude who got canned for acting like a startup CEO is now haunting the sidewalk like a LinkedIn ghost. But then it got weird. Some of us got LinkedIn requests from him. Some got emails. Then it flagged suspicious login attempts. Someone tried accessing my company account 3 times from a VPN. I messaged Jake in it. "Me, hey, was that me? Jake? Nope. Someone's trying to brute force your security questions. Me, Jesus. Jake? Guess who the recovery email links back to?" I already knew, but I asked anyway. "Jake, Ryan's Gmail." My blood went cold. I stood up and walked straight into Lisa's office. "Lisa," I said, holding up my phone, "Ryan just tried to break into my company account." She put down her coffee. "Come again?" Jake confirmed it. Recovery email was his. She didn't hesitate. Tell it. Lock everything. Full audit. Now. Within an hour, we learned he had tried to access at least 2 other accounts, Amy's and Lisa's. Before we could even draft a response or prep HR, it escalated. At 4:03 a.m. the next morning, a company-wide email went out from Lisa's email. Subject line, a new era of leadership. The body, a fake resignation letter from Lisa, praising Ryan as a brilliant strategic mind and naming him as her successor. It took the IT team about 10 minutes to shut it down, but the damage was done. The rumour mill spun into overdrive. Lisa was livid. Later that morning, she gathered the department, everyone. No preamble. Ryan has officially crossed the line, she said, calm but sharp. Legal is involved. If he contacts you, email, text, in person, do not engage. Forward everything to HR. If you see him near this building, alert security immediately. You could hear a pin drop. Then someone whispered, Jesus Christ. No one disagreed, but of course Ryan wasn't done. That same night, he replied to the cease and desist letter from our legal team. I will not be ignored. The next day, we got a call from a client one Ryan had briefly been involved with before his implosion. He told them he was still employed and on a short leave due to internal disagreements. He said he was the true strategist behind their last campaign. The client was confused, rightfully. Lisa didn't even raise her voice. She just rubbed her temples like a woman 2 heartbeats away from flipping a desk. That's it, she said. We escalate. Corporate Legal filed a lawsuit against Ryan the next day for unauthorized access, impersonation, fraud, and an attempt to harm client relationships. The email, the fake resignation, the unauthorized contact, it was all documented. Ironclad. And then the cameras caught him again. Friday afternoon, Ryan was back in the parking lot. Not just standing. Yelling, on his phone. Pacing like a caged animal. Sweaty, red-faced, and very clearly unraveling. Security called the cops. When they arrived, he was sitting on the curb with his head in his hands. They escorted him off the premises again. At this point, we thought that has to be it. Surely. It wasn't. 3 nights later, I was home, exhausted, had just finished dinner when my doorbell rang. I glanced at my phone Ring camera alert, and my stomach just dropped. It was Ryan, standing on my porch. No bag, no car in sight, just standing there like some horror movie final boss. I froze. He knocked. I know you're in there, he called. I backed away, heart racing, and whispered into my phone, already dialing. 911, what's your emergency? There's a man outside my house. I think he followed me from work. Is he armed? I don't know, he's just standing there. And then I watched, still whispering to dispatch, as Ryan slowly reached for the doorknob. He twisted it. I bolted to the kitchen, grabbed the biggest knife I could find, locked myself in the bathroom, and stayed on the line with the dispatcher until I heard the sirens. When the police arrived, he was gone. But they found footprints in the yard, and the moment the sirens started, the Ring camera caught it. He smiled, turned, and walked away. After that, he disappeared again. No messages, no emails, no late-night standing sessions across the street. Weeks passed. At first, I thought maybe the legal pressure finally scared him off. Maybe he realized the bridges were ash and the river was dry. I should have known better. Because when Ryan came back, he didn't just show up. He made sure we'd all remember it. It was a Monday morning. The kind where everyone was half alive, clutching coffee, scrolling their inbox like zombies. Phones ringing, keyboards clacking. I was mid-email when I heard it yelling. Not the usual frustrated whisper yell, I mean full volume screaming from the lobby. The kind that doesn't sound like someone having a bad day. The kind that makes your stomach drop. I stood up. Everyone else did too. Then footsteps. Fast, heavy, getting closer, and then boom, he burst through the door. Ryan. He was sweaty, wild-eyed, shaking. People gasped. A few backed away. Someone even screamed. I froze in place. Lisa stood up first. Ryan, get out. But he wasn't looking at her. He was locked on me. You think you can ruin my life? He shouted. You think you can just stand there and smile while you stab me in the back? My heart pounded, but I didn't move. I couldn't. He pointed at me, hands trembling. I trusted you, he spit. I gave this place vision, strategy. And you lied. You sabotaged me. Lisa moved toward him. Ryan, that's enough. Leave. Now. He turned to the whole room, shouting, You all think I'm crazy? I'm not crazy. I was meant to lead this place. I was the future. No one said a word. Phones were out, recording, whispering. Then he laughed. A hollow, broken laugh. You know what? He said, locking eyes with me again. None of this matters. Because you're going to get what's coming to you. And then he ran, straight for the emergency exit. Security tackled him before he could get it open. I still remember the sound, his shoes scraping across the floor, the scuffle, the gasps. He was dragged out, screaming, arms flailing, shouting something about destiny. The cops came. HR got involved. Legal kicked into high gear. That should have been the final curtain, but it wasn't. Not yet. The next day, the police came to interview me. It was a lot. They showed me printouts, emails, screenshots. Turns out Ryan had been planning things for weeks. He'd searched my address days before showing up at my house. Had notebooks full of unhinged notes about me, the company, some grand narrative where he was the misunderstood genius and I was the jealous villain. He even tried to hire someone online, a sketchy freelancer, to break into our internal systems. Luckily, the guy bailed when he realized it was real corporate espionage, not some weird role play. But that wasn't the worst of it. Ryan had bought a one-way plane ticket to another state. The officer looked me in the eye and said, "We think he was planning to disappear after doing something. Can't say what for sure, but this wasn't random. He had intentions. Intentions. That word stuck with me. A few weeks passed. No Ryan sightings, no emails, nothing. I finally started to breathe again. Then I got a call from the detectives. Ryan wants to talk, they said. Would you be willing to meet him? He says he wants closure. Part of me wanted to say no, hell no, but I needed to see him. Maybe to understand, maybe to confirm there was nothing left to understand. So I went. He was in a small room, handcuffed, hair messy, eyes red and sunken. He looked deflated, like someone who lost a war he invented. When he saw me, he let out a weak laugh. You won, he said. I sat down. What the hell were you thinking? He shook his head slowly. I was supposed to be somebody. You were somebody. I shot back. You had a good job. A fresh start. You blew it. He stared at the table. I thought I was better than everyone. Silence. There it was. The truth. No excuses. No spin. Just a guy who believed his own hype until reality slapped him in the face. Ryan pleaded guilty to multiple charges: unauthorized access, impersonation, harassment. He got probation, mandatory therapy, a restraining order, and a file that will probably haunt him in every job background check for the rest of his life. As for me, it took time. I was jumpy for a while. Every knock on the door made me tense up. Every weird email felt like a potential threat. But eventually, that fear faded, and I was left with something else. Clarity. See, Ryan wasn't unique. There are a lot of Ryans out there. People who walk into rooms thinking they're the smartest, most important person without doing an ounce of real work. People who think rules are suggestions. Who talk big, act bigger, and implode the second reality says no. And when things don't go their way, they blame everyone but themselves. But here's the thing about people like Ryan. They always think they're the main character, the visionary, the hero in a world too dumb to recognize their brilliance. But life doesn't care about your fantasy. Reality doesn't bend to delusion. And in the end, reality always wins.